Another IndyCar race weekend to the left. This weekend in Portland, next week in Laguna Seca. Right now, the championship is still up for grabs. It's down to two drivers, Alex Palou, Scott Dixon. We'll get to those in a second. But this is Prime Sports Network. I mean, saying Prime Sports NASCAR. We just taped that video a couple days ago. Be sure to check that out on the channel. We talked Darlington playoff preview with CJ Radoon, who joined us with RotoWire. We discussed everything coming up for the 10-race playoffs, so be sure to check that out. CJ will be with Greg, or in his video tomorrow to preview the F1 race weekend in Italy, so be sure to check that out as well. Prime Sports Network has college football, NFL, everything you can need as well. So be sure to subscribe, like the channel, like the videos, join our Discord app with the motorsports community. You can comment directly to us, and we can talk to you there if you need some immediate questions. I know I've got a couple emails actually from listeners about fantasy advice. So you can put it in Discord and we'll see it, and I'll jump right on and be able to answer pretty quickly, especially with Darlington, Portland, anything you need. So be sure to find us there, Prime Sports Network, Prime Sports NASCAR, Motorsports Discord, anything you need. Just be sure to find us there, and we'll be sure to chat. So this race specifically, we're going to talk Portland, the Bitnile Grand Prix of Portland. It's the first time they had a title sponsor for this race in a while. So we'll get into the 5 things I'm watching for this week and the top 5 topics, which we'll jump right into it. Topic number 1, as I kind of teased right a few minutes ago, Alex Palou versus Scott Dixon. That's it. Those are the only 2 drivers that can win the championship. Joseph Newgarden last weekend was still in the hunt. I think most people thought maybe he was going to be the top driver to catch Palou because we were at Gateway. He dominated ovals. He was 4 for 4 on the season, won 3 straight there. Started on the pole, was quickest Saturday night practice. Alex Palou was starting like outside the top 15. So was he going to be the one these final 2 races to challenge Palou? And instead, he found the wall pushing too hard. Championship hopes dashed. Everybody else is gone because they're too far out. We talked about that last week. And Scott Dixon did Scott Dixon things again. Second straight win. Managed to go 3 stops in the 260-lap race. Everybody else had 5. So he had 2 less stops, won the race. Alex Palou finished 7th. So it's down to those 2 teammates coming to Portland, 74-point gap. So that's why I'm watching these 2, because Dixon's trimmed 52 points off Alex Palou's lead the last 2 races. Granted, he won them both, but it has to be at least 48 points or less leaving here this weekend, which means he's got to make up 26 points. Now, granted, I know some people would think, well, there's 54 points max in a race. Why does it have to be 48? Well, because you get 5 points for showing up. So Palou, he's not going to not show up to Laguna Seca next week. I don't think they're going to lock him in a bathroom or anything. So he's going to get 5 points. So you take 54 minus 5 and you get 49. But Palou will win the tiebreaker against Dixon. So that's why it's got to be 48, which means that's 26 points he's got to make up on him. So Dixon, max points 54 this weekend. He leads the most laps, starts on the pole. That means Palou's got to finish 3rd or better. So if he's 3rd or better, it doesn't matter what Dixon does. Palou he's going to win the championship. But I struggle to think Dixon's going to score max points anyways. He hasn't won a pole on a road course outside the Indianapolis Motor Speedway since 2017. So that's asking a lot for him to jump in and win a pole. So you're looking at he's probably playing for 52, 53 points max. So that puts Palou 3rd, 4th place finish. Championship's his, which is crazy to think about because it's been 17 straight years that we've gone to the season finale in the IndyCar Series, NTT IndyCar Series, and we didn't know the champion yet. And that's incredible in the fact that IndyCar doesn't have a playoffs like NASCAR has, and it still has always gone to the last race. But that also is a testament to how good Alex Palou has been this year, that he can wrap this thing up this weekend. And I think he's going to put a lot of pressure on Dixon in doing so, because if you look, if you just take the blind resume and you take Palou out of it and you put Dixon against everybody else, you'd be questioning how this guy hasn't won a championship already. He's had a top 7 finish in all but 1 race this year. But Palou's had a top 8 in every race. And that's been the difference. I mean, Dixon, of the last 11 races, his average finish is 4.09. But Palou is 3.45. It just seems like every time Dixon goes on a run, Palou's right there. But Portland's this weekend. We'll see what can happen. We'll get to another point of why this could be a wild card. But you look at it, Dixon's has 3 top 5s in his last 4 starts there. 2 straight podiums, 3rd place. in both. But Alex Palou won this race in 2021. He was 12th last year, so the door is open. Then you go to Laguna Seca next week, and that's not one of Dixon's better tracks. He finished third once, but then he was 13th and 12th the last 2 years. Then you look at Palou, he's made 2 starts there. He's finished second and first, where you won the race by a half of a minute last year. So it really means Dixon's got to do a lot of damage this weekend, and that can be difficult to do. But one thing he could do is win again. And like I said, there could be a gap there between them, which goes to my second topic, is spoilers. Because you can have cars finish between Dixon and Palou. Granted, when you come into these natural road courses, there's been 5 races on them this year. Dixon and Palou have won 4 of them, and they've all been consecutively. They've all won them in a row. So one of them is probably going to win on Sunday. And if it's Dixon, does he get some help by having guys finish between him and Palou? I look at somebody like Colton Herta. He won the pole at Road America Mid-Ohio. Strategy took him out of the win in Road America. Self-inflicted. He pit a lap too soon when he shouldn't have. In Mid-Ohio, he was speeding on pit road. That handed wins to Alex Palou. So what happens if that doesn't happen? What if he stays up front? Kyle Kirkwood, he's raced 6 Road to Indy starts there. He won 5 of them. And we know Andretti's got some speed. The Rahal guys, Lundgaard, Graham Rahal, these are their best type of tracks. Graham Rahal should have won this race a few years ago. Scott McLaughlin won this race last year. Pato O'Ward, he was 4th last year. Natural road courses this season, I said there's 5 of them. He's finished 4th, 2nd, 3rd, 8th, and 3rd. His teammate Alexander Rossi in 4 Portland starts, 8th, 3rd, 7th, 2nd. Now he's with McLaren. So any one of those guys could challenge for the win and podiums or top 5s. And if Dixon wins and these guys finish between him and Palou, then we can have more of a fight than we thought we had coming to Laguna Seca. So that's why I'm watching spoilers and what they can do, which leads me to my third topic, the first lap. Portland has been a track where the front stretch is 2,450 feet. And when you start the race or have restarts, going down that long stretch, and you have a tight right-hand turn and then a quick left, there's been carnage. Every year we have seen a crash in turn 1 at Portland. Palou, starting up front, was part of it a couple of years ago, and he rebounded to win. Last year they made a change, and that's why I'm curious what it's going to look like. They let the drivers, kind of what NASCAR did at Indianapolis a couple of weeks ago, where we knew that turn 1 was a problem here. And they would start in the final 2-corner sequence to create some separation. Well, they did that last year in Portland, and it worked because there wasn't a first lap wreck. They had enough separation from the field where you don't have guys dive bombing each other into a tight, slow right-hand corner, then immediate left. So I'm curious if we're going to see that again. Do we see a first lap wreck? It seemed like Death Tax's first lap Portland crashed until last year. So what happens this year? And if you do a first lap crash, is Palou or Dixon a part of it? Dixon was a part of a first lap crash at Indy a couple of weeks ago when he still came back and won. So there is room to come back from it. But how bad is the crash? Do we see it at general? So that's the thing I'm going to watch, is that first lap naturally for that incident. The fourth topic, what's the race for third? We know the top 2 have distanced themselves. It's Alex Palou versus Dixon, but there's 4 or 5 drivers that are still in the mix to finish third, which I call next best in class. The Ganassi teammates are gone. But there's 51 points that Joseph Newgarden, he sits third right now. He's behind second place Dixon. But if you go down to 7th in the standings, there's 52 points between Newgarden and his teammate Will Power. That's a race. That's one race worth of points. So that's a lot of drivers in that mix compared to moving up, which it seems more likely he's going to be around that threshold than moving up to second, which he's finished second the last 3 years in the championship. So if he's going to catch Scott Dixon, he's got to get on the horn this weekend and get a win. But this isn't a strong track for him. Yes, he's got a top 10 in all 4 tries, but none of them he's finished better than 5th. So he's kind of looking out the rearview mirror now. And how dejected is he now? He doesn't have a chance for a championship. What's his morale coming into this weekend? We got Pato O'Ward, who I just mentioned how good he's been on natural road courses. He's only 11 points behind Newgarden. Scott McLaughlin, he's 14 points behind Newgarden. He's sitting in 5th in points. And where it's interesting, why I'm watching that is O'Ward would like to beat Newgarden and McLaughlin, because if he does, he's the top Chevrolet driver in points, which that's a huge feat for a team like McLaren. They're winless this year, but to still come away with the top Chevy driver, that should mean something. Or you got McLaughlin wanting to finish ahead of Newgarden, and no matter what Pato does, you got that battle, because that's the battle for the top Penske driver. which would be a huge feat for just this third year to beat last year's champion in Will Power and somebody like Joseph Newgarden in the points. So that'd be a big thing to watch. That's why I'm watching the race for third in the championship. And my fifth topic that I'm watching is the leader circle. And what that is the top 22 in points. And that's intra points because some cars, if you've seen, we've had different drivers, which we'll get to in this topic. But that's the car. That's where NASCAR's owner's points. Well, IndyCar calls it intra points. That's the car scoring points. The number 11 with Chip Ganassi Racing, that car doesn't count because it's typically you'll get 3 cars max. The Andretti's 4th car was grandfathered in. That's the only one, which right now, ironically enough, is outside the threshold for the top 22. But the top 22 in entrant points, you get a hefty bonus at the end of the year. And from what I've heard, it's kind of tight-lipped, but I've heard it's between $910,000 and $915,000 for the 22nd entry, and it kind of goes up to first. So it's an extra bonus program for these teams. If you're not in it, you get nothing. So that's a big thing, especially for a sport where money's tight, to be leader circle now. That affects future rides. That affects pit crews. That affects who you can hire. That affects maybe bringing somebody that brings money in for next year compared to maybe having the money to sign somebody based off talent. So that's what I'm watching, that battle. Right now, Ryan Hunter-Reay went from 3 points up heading to Gateway. He finished 14th, his best effort with Ed Carpenter Racing since he's joined him, taking over that 20 car for Connor Daly. He's now 11 points to the good, so he's built himself a cushion. Connor Daly, who raced that ride, who ran the 30 car for Jack Carvey and Ray Hall Letterman Landing and Racing last week, he went from below the cut line to above the cut line. He did his job. They're 1 point to the good. They're tied with the 60 car with Meyer Shank Racing, which was Simon Pagenaud's ride. They're both tied for 21st. They both are 1 point to the good. They're tied, so they got the final 2 spots. But here's what's interesting. This week, it was announced that Tom Blomqvist, who's taking over one of the 2 cars in Meyer Shank Racing, he's in that ride for the rest of the season. He's got 1 career IndyCar start, and he's turned 0 laps. He wrecked in the first lap at Toronto. So that's somebody who's not seen these tracks before, trying to keep that car above the cut line. Same for the 30 car. Ray Hall Letterman Lanigan hired Yuri Vips. He's going to race the final 2 races. I have a story, a feature on him on racereviewonline.net right now explaining that he comes with some baggage, but he's never also raced on these tracks before. So he's 0 starts, and you got 1 for Tom Blomqvist. Neither of them have turned a race full completed lap, and they're trying to hang on to stay above the cut line. But where the thing is interesting is the guys below them, there's 4 cars trying to get in. 3 of them are rookies. Augustin Canapino, Steenray Robb, and Benjamin Peterson. They're rookies trying to get their way in. Devlin Day Francesco, who I just mentioned at 29 ride, his grandfathered in, he's 4 points down. He's a sophomore. So who among these 6 is going to be the 4 in with 2 of them, or I'm sorry, there's 6. 2 are going to be in the final spots. 4 are going to be out. So who among them is going to be, and it's going to be these younger drivers without much experience. So what are they going to do on these 2 tracks moving forward to solidify the Leader Circle program for next year for that bonus program? So those are the 5 things I'm watching. Sunday's race, Bit Nile, Grand Prix of Portland. It's going to be a 3 o'clock start on NBC, Network NBC. It will lead into the Southern 500, which I know is on USA, different network, but be a busy motorsports weekend with F1, IndyCar, NASCAR, Xfinity Series, and the Cup Series racing in Darlington. They got the NHRA US Nationals at Indianapolis Raceway Park as well. They're a big show, so it's a big weekend for racing. Should be good. Hope you guys enjoy it. Thanks for tuning in, and be sure to subscribe, like the channel, and watch our other videos for previews for F1 with CJ, which will be taped tomorrow. On Friday, and our NASCAR show, which we taped earlier this week to preview those playoffs too. So thank you.